and wire can change two things to one. They are languages and letters, they are poetry and all. They are love and understanding, and they're better than they all. They are languages and letters, they are poetry and all. They are love and understanding, and they're better than they all. There are canyons, they are yawning in the night. They are rank and bitter anger, they are all devoid of light. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul foreboding, and they're oh so very wide. They are fear and blind suspicion, they are apathy and pride. They are dark and soul foreboding, and they're oh so very wide. Let us build a bridge of music, let us cross with a song. Let us span another canyon, let us write another dawn. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. We will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way.
We will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. Welcome to Bridges Programming. This is Sunday on the Front Stoop, the longest stoop in the world. And we planned on having 3 people from Germany with us today, but it didn't quite work out that way because of technical difficulties through Skype and actually I'm going to call it pilot error. It was my fault. And we have with us today Dennis Carius. Hello, Dennis. And
oh, Jeff, das ist aber schade.
It's very sad, right?
Very sad. Okay, well, and then we have Susan Coman.
Hello.
And I'm Jeff Beller, and I'm going to give you a headshot now, so we'll give you a headshot. Okay, and we're back here with you. On your screen, you're going to see the word Bridges Programming, bridgesprogramming.com. Then we also are going to have on our screen the Human Renewable Energy Measure, and that's what's the impetus behind this program, to say that all humanity has to have their basic needs met for 1 hour of their life a day, and they have 11 hours more to have their wants met, and that's what makes us human. And it becomes a system that is very much communistic when it talks about all humanity has to share equally as much as they possibly can, their mind and intellect. And then we have a socialistic portion that's very socialistic, that we all agree on this measurement, that every human being has to have their basic needs met for 1 hour of labor a day. And then we have the capitalistic system that says you've now got 11 hours or 23 hours more to work for your wants. And you can work as hard as you want because you're never going to hurt another human being anywhere in our planet or in our main mansion that's floating in outer space a day. That's the point of the HREM. And the other thing we have is a nonprofit organization that we sponsor called Renew the Earth. And we talk about renewable energy. That's what we are, by the way. We are, in fact, renewable energy.
Well, all life is.
All life is.
So far.
And so are trees, and so is air, and so is water. Actually, water and air keep on circulating within our atmosphere. And if we kill our atmosphere, and we kill our water supply, and we kill our soil supply, we will no longer be a species. So that's the point of this.
But other species will survive, so that's the good news.
Yeah, that's the good news. The planet,
but we can reschedule with Dennis's friends in Germany. But I wonder if Dennis would read his summary that things he wanted to talk about today, and we can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, we can still talk about the things.
And kind of introduce
But what-
when we'll have the opportunity to have Dennis's guests on in the future. We got to practice some.
Okay, this may be an answer, but
Dennis, do you want to read your summary, and then we'll do our own discussion about it, and
Good.
hopefully we'll get a chance to practice with your friends the contacts.
they just returned our call, our email, but it's a little too late.
Let me see. What,
Oh, that's great. Let me read that, okay?
Go ahead, Dennis.
Good. I want to, and I'm looking right now. It's
oh,
just
okay.
Susan on
She's got a
screen.
different. Here's why it didn't work, because she has a slash in there, Dennis. She has an underscore for her Skype name, and we didn't put it. We didn't get that in your email.
We'll return an email. Tell them we'll do it Wednesday if that's okay. Same time.
Okay, we didn't have the underscore, so that's what the problem is.
Wow. Is there
So-
any chance to just try one more time? with
No,
the
we
others?
can't because we're in the middle of the program now. We'll just do Sunday on the front stoop, and then we'll do roll call it on Wednesday. We can't change the hours around. It doesn't work. We have to be responsible for the hours that we promise, because that's what makes us humans. We have to follow through with what we say we're going to try to follow through with. And that's where we are. Okay, so
Okay, I'm
Yes.
responding to her
Susan,
though, Dennis, so
so-
she'll know what's up.
so
Thank
you
you,
read the and
Yes.
we'll tell her we're going to practice with her prior to the programming.
Using Skype.
Yes, we'll try to call her at a specific time that she wants us to call her on, and maybe we can do a three-way with Skype. I don't know how to do that, but maybe if you can figure it out, that'd be great. Okay, did you read your summary?
I'm going to read the summary, but before I do, I just want to apologize to all three of them over in Europe that we did not send out the correct Skype address for them to
Well,
join us today.
We didn't have
So I
the
understand.
correct address, which is
One underscore was not there.
Okay, well, does it?
well, we would have done it if we had it.
We don't need to talk about the technical difficulties over the air now because it's a live show. So let's move forward, okay? And let's get this straightened out. So,
All right, I'm going to read this.
Yes.
This is the topic we wanted to talk to them about. The European Union, its interactions with the United States in reaction to the proposed Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. Okay? The European Union and the United States are on very good relations with each other. Which countries in the European Union are doing the best work to save our planet and love thy neighbor? Germany is at the top of the list installing solar panels to supply clean energy and to save our planet from our climate change. Nations in the northern side of the European Union, such as Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, offer a good form of socialism to help everyone and to fix the defects of capitalism. Dennis's friends in Germany were to be interviewed today, but unfortunately, again, it did not work out. Hopefully, this coming Wednesday, they can join us for World Call-In. Okay, and that's the summary, Jeff.
okay, let me talk about that summary a little bit. Do you notice the word that you used in that summary, that Germany and the United States and a lot of the Western countries are participating together to be good friends and cooperate in doing renewable energy like solar and other renewable energies. But what about the rest of the world? Why aren't we sharing with Germany and the United States and France and China, and why aren't we all working together? I know that when I was in Germany, Hermann Scheer he died a few years ago, but he did a phenomenal job to promote renewable energy. And the point is, we can't save I don't think we can save the planet if we still keep killing each other. So the planet becomes not the topic of the problem. The problem is, why aren't we sharing our technology with the whole world? Like, for instance, here in Florida, we're doing a tremendous amount in New York State where there's hardly any sun. But in Florida, where there's tremendous amount of sun, you don't see any incentives for people to do renewable energy. Why is that? Dennis?
I'm sorry, just real quickly, the very end of your question, there was an interruption. Can you repeat that, Jeff?
Look, we are sharing, let me repeat the whole thing. We are sharing with Germany our technology, and they're sharing it with us, and we're working in cooperation to help to promote renewable energy throughout this part of the world, right? But why aren't we doing that in other parts of the world, like China, and which they are doing, and China's doing their own stuff, and how about Indonesia and Australia and all over the world? Why are we singling out just a couple of rooms on the planet, a couple of spots, or a couple of countries that we're all on the same planet together? Why aren't we working together with all nations? And that's a rhetorical question. And then I'm going to give you another question. Why do you think in Florida we have so much sun here, but there's no incentives in Florida? And this is obviously a great place to do renewable solar. Why aren't we doing it here?
Well, I told you, I read the answer to that a couple months ago. It said, Big Oil said we can have solar when they can put a meter on the sun.
So the answer to that is not the nonsense that we're putting out in the paper. The real answer to that is the economics, isn't it not the economics?
Yes.
So the economic system is controlling the political system, which is saying physically we should not be doing anything with solar, because politically it's not advantageous to the politicians, because they're not getting the money to run for politics from the people from the solar industry. They're getting more from the oil industry. Now, I wanted to ask you another question, Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
Venezuela is coming online with 500,000, a lot of oil.
Okay.
And they're saying that there's a glut in the market and oil prices are going to plummet. Now, if that happens, don't you think those oil prices are plummeting politically because they want to try to get rid of the renewable industry?
Yes.
So the prices then have nothing to do with something that's physical, because we're still going to hurt other people with the climate and the physical problems that it's creating, and it may hurt our atmosphere, it may hurt our water and our soil. So that's the physical problem. So the money should be irrelevant, shouldn't it? Should it not be? Like Herman Schier said from Germany, he said to me, even one wind generator that produces such a small amount, no matter what the cost is, it's better than using fossil fuel. And Herman Schmidt from Germany was right on target. And that's the way we should be looking at it, not how much money, how much cheaper it is, but that's what they're doing. They're going to use the economy to control the way they're going to try to get rid of the renewable energy industry. So the problem is the economic system, and that's why it's so important to understand that.
This is interesting. I know that, Dennis, you were hoping to speak to your friends in Germany about the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, and you're talking about, of course, economics right now. I'm looking it up on the internet, and I came up with an article that is not. It's actually very worried about this partnership. Can I read a little bit about what it says?
Yes.
Okay, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership is a series of trade negotiations being carried out mostly in secret between the EU and US. As a bilateral trade agreement, TTIP is about reducing the regulatory barriers to trade for big business, things like food safety law, environmental legislation, banking regulations, and the sovereign powers of individual nations. It is, as John Hillary, executive director of campaign group War on Want, said, quote, an assault on European and US societies by transnational corporations. Since before TTIP negotiations began last February, the process has been secretive and undemocratic. This secrecy is ongoing, with nearly all information on negotiations coming from leaked documents and freedom of information requests. But worryingly, the covert nature of the talks may well be the least of our problems. Here are 6 other reasons why we should be scared of the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, TTIP. Okay, here. Do you guys want to discuss this a little, or should I go on with?
Keep on going.
Okay, all right. 1, the NHS, national. What is the NHS? What are they abbreviating here? Dennis, do you know? No,
No, Susan, I didn't even know what the TTIP was.
oh, no, you do. You're the one who wrote it in. Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. That's the subject you wanted to discuss today with the people in Germany. Remember?
Well, my friends in Germany asked me to put that on our topics, but I didn't know what it stood for, though.
Okay, it stands for Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, TTIP. Well, I don't know what they're referring to. Maybe it'll come up in what he's writing here. NHS, I don't know. I wish people would not use these darn, abbreviations. It's like living in, we're all like being militarized or something. Can't they just state it? I mean, it really annoys me. It's not your fault, Dennis, at all. I mean, I get really annoyed at these abbreviations. Anyway, number 1, public services, especially the NHS, National Health Services maybe, are in the firing line. One of the main aims of TTIP, Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, is to open up Europe's public health, that's what it is, National Health Services, open up Europe's public health, education, and water services to US companies. Oh my gosh, they're going to privatize Europe's public health, education, and water services. This is the goal. This could essentially mean the privatization of National Health Services, NHS. The European Commission has claimed that public services will be kept out of Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. However, according to the Huffington Post, the UK Trade Minister Lord Livingston has admitted that talks about the National Health Service were still on the table. 2, food and environmental safety. Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership regulatory convergence agenda will seek to bring EU, European Union standards on food safety and environment closure to those of the US. Wait a minute.
So they're actually trying to get rid of. It sounds to me they want to put this in place so they can cut some of the environmental stuff out.
In other words,
cut the food safety out and sell the water to the public.
Closer to those of the US. Are our food safety and environmental regulations less strict than those in Europe?
Yes.
Okay, all right. But the US, okay, wait a minute. US regulations are much less strict. He goes on to mention that. With 70% of all processed foods sold in the US supermarkets now containing genetically modified ingredients. By contrast, European Union allows virtually no genetically modified foods.
Right. So what I can gather, this trade agreement that they're trying to do, here's the way I would say
which is being secret, which is being conducted secretly, it seems. Yeah.
That's the problem with that. So I'm hoping your friends from
more. Let's
go ahead,
hear the
keep
rest
on
of it,
going.
because if we're able to reschedule with your friends in Germany,
We should
we'll
know
at
about
least
this.
Have kind of done a preview of what may be going on with this. The U.S. also has and U.S. stands for United States. Since I'm saying all the abbreviations out, amazing. They want to abbreviate. These are the things they want to abbreviate. TTIP, Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. They want to abbreviate EU, European Union. They want to abbreviate genetically modified to GM. Then they want to, of course, abbreviate US, which we all have accepted by now. But if you didn't know any of these things, this would make no sense to you at all, this article. The U.S. also has far laxer restrictions on the use of pesticides. Oh boy, do we know that. It also uses growth hormones in its beef, which are restricted in Europe due to links to cancer. U.S. farmers have tried to have these restrictions lifted repeatedly in the past through the World Trade Organization, and it is likely that they will use transatlantic trade and investment partnership to do so.
This is all about making money for the very, very wealthy people. It's all about the economy. So they're trying to change the rules and the laws to make sure that there's more money being made. Not how much you're going to help humanity or the environment or the food and water. They want to limit those restrictions. This is a terrible, terrible thing. Now, we didn't talk to your friends from Germany, but I'm sure that they're going to agree with what we're saying now.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, I'd be very surprised if they're not.
Yeah, but I mean,
this is something that I think is a terrible thing.
Well, it sounds to me like this agreement, which is not an agreement, it sounds like an assault to me. Anyway, let's go on. The same goes for the environment, which the European Union's REACH regulations are far tougher on potentially toxic substances. In Europe, a company has to prove a substance is safe before it can be used. In the US, the opposite is true. Any substance can be used until it's proven unsafe. As an example, the European Union currently bans 1,200 substances for use in cosmetics. The US, just 12. Okay, let's go on to the banking regulations. Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership cuts both ways. The United Kingdom, which is Britain, England, the UK, under the influence of all-powerful City of London, is thought to be seeking a loosening of the US banking regulations. America's financial rules are tougher than ours. Okay, this is being written from the European point of view. America's financial rules are tougher than ours. They would put into place after the financial crisis. They were put into place after the financial crisis to directly curb the powers of bankers and avoid a similar crisis happening again. Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, it is feared, will remove those restrictions, effectively handing all those powers back to the bankers. Okay, so they feel that's a legitimate concern. And I could agree with them on that. You know, this is a temporary situation, these restrictions, and there's always a legal, quote unquote, way in this country to get around any restrictions, especially on banking. Banking regulations are notoriously easy for our lawyers to get around. Number 4, privacy. Remember ACTA, the Anti-Counterfeiting Trade Agreement, I don't remember it, but they're referring to it here, anti-counterfeiting trade agreement. It was thrown out by a massive majority of the European Parliament in 2012 after a huge public backlash against what was rightly seen as an attack on individual privacy, where internet service providers would be required to monitor people's online activity. Well, it's feared that the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership could bring back anti-counterfeiting trade agreement central elements, proving that if the democratic approach doesn't work, there's always the back door. An easing of data privacy laws and a restriction of public access to pharmaceutical companies' clinical trials are also thought to be on the cards, or in the cards, or on the cards, or whatever. Wow.
Dennis has the question.
Well, you know, we already know that our online activities are heavily observed. Amazing. Jobs, quote, here we go. The European Union has admitted that the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership will probably cause unemployment as jobs switch to the US, where labor standards and trade union rights are lower. Well, actually, you know, isn't that interesting? Because, you know, that's exactly what will happen. It has even advised European Union members to draw on European support funds to compensate for the expected unemployment. In Europe, Europeans still enjoy pretty decent salaries and
Benefits.
And of course, and of course, you know, the countries have to support this financially. And here in the United States, we don't even think about that much. Examples from our similar bilateral trade agreements around the world support the case for job losses. The North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, between the US and Canada and Mexico caused the loss of millions of US jobs over 12 years instead of the hundreds of thousands of extra that were promised. So in this case, we are trying to make a trade agreement with countries that are actually in much better shape than we are. So their jobs will default to us because we're willing to work for
less money.
Because we have to. And that's what happened with NAFTA. People in Mexico and Canada, I don't know about Canada, but it's definitely Mexico, were willing to work for less. So that drained jobs out of the US. So now we're looking to drain jobs out of the European Union. That is the mechanism. Finally,
so
number
again,
6.
economics to help the wealthy and make more of our 6 billion people or 7 billion people on the planet, put them into slavery even more so. The key here is we gotta get this human renewable energy measurement into position. And the only way to do that is for the people who understand what we're talking about to get the message out using the internet while we still have it. Talk to your church groups if you don't have internet. Go to your gin mills or your bar or your dinner table, wherever you can. Get this measurement into position before it is so difficult to do. The entire world will be in total slavery. Because human beings are, in fact, the energy driver for all of humanity. Human beings are renewable people. They die. The next generation comes up. You work them to death. The very, very wealthy stays just drawing all our labor and all our time in. Has nothing to do with money. It's time and labor they're taking from us. They're taking away your life. They are squandering our lifetime. Yeah. That's the problem. It has nothing to do with the money. Stop worshiping money. Start worshiping time. Okay. Anyway.
Let me,
what did you say, Dennis?
I haven't finished the article.
Can Susan hear me?
Yes.
Because I was asking if I could just ask her where did she get this? Like, she went online.
Yeah, I'm
and
just
put
going
in
to tell you now.
She's going to tell you.
That's what I wanted to do.
Wait till the end of the
I
time.
have
She'll tell
one
you.
more section to read in this article, but it's coming from Independent. It's out of England, the UK. www.independent.co.uk. Voices comment, and the title of the article is "What is TTIP? And 6 reasons why the answer should scare you." The author is, as far as I can tell here, Lee Williams. And okay, I will read the last paragraph in this. This is a couple of paragraphs, actually. It's the last section, which is entitled Democracy. Transatlantic trade and investment partnerships' biggest threat to society is its inherent assault on democracy. One of the main aims of transatlantic trade and investment partnership is the introduction of investor-state dispute settlements, and they have a what is that called when they just make initials? ISDS is what they refer to.
I don't know what the ISDS means either.
Investor-state dispute settlements, ISDS. Whatever investor-state dispute settlements refers to, but he's going to go on to tell us, which allow companies to sue governments if those governments' policies cause a loss of, guess what?
Money.
Profits. Oh my gosh. In effect, it means unelected transnational corporations can dictate the policies of democratically elected governments, and I'm saying in the name of profit. Oh, wow. Investor-state dispute settlements. So the investor, the company, is considering itself a state. And this has always been, and I've said this on other programs, these huge corporations are nations unto themselves. They have no allegiance to any country, to any cooperation or humane cooperation between peoples. Their whole impetus, their whole directive is how much profit can I make for my company? Investor-state dispute settlements, you got to remember that, ISDS, are already in place in other bilateral trade agreements around the world and have led to such injustices as in Germany, where Swedish energy company Vattenfall is suing the German government for billions of dollars over its decision to phase out nuclear power plants in the wake of the Fukushima disaster in Japan. Here we go. And I'm sure your friends would have commented on that, Dennis. Billions of dollar lawsuit. Here we see a public health policy put into place by a democratically elected government being threatened by an energy giant because of a potential loss of profit. Nothing could be more cynically anti-democratic. There are around 500 similar cases of businesses versus nations going on around the world at the moment, and they are all taking place before, quote, arbitration tribunals, unquote. That makes me think of you know, the tribunals in Geneva, right, to get mass murdering and genocide tribunals. Oh my gosh, arbitration tribunals made up of corporate lawyers. Oh, no surprise there. Okay, appointed on an ad hoc basis.
We need to go after the problem, and that's the economic system.
Right. Well, let me finish this. There's only one more paragraph. These arbitration tribunals are made up of corporate lawyers appointed on an ad hoc basis, which according to War on Wants, John Hillary, are, quote, little more than kangaroo courts, unquote, with, quote, a vested interest in ruling in favor of business. Well, that's an understatement. I mean, can't this guy be a little more aggressive in his language? I'm glad he's on the right side, but geez, I mean, can't these people get worked up? So I don't know about you, quote, but I'm scared. This is the author of our article. I would vote against transatlantic trade and investment partnership, except, hang on a minute, I can't. Like you, I have no say whatsoever in whether this goes forward or not. All I can do is tell as many people about it as possible, as I hope you will. We may be forced to accept an attack on democracy, but we can at least fight against the conspiracy of silence. Well-written piece, well-written piece. Thank you, Lee Williams from the Independent, which comes out of England. So I don't know. I mean, that I'm glad that you brought this topic up, Dennis, because I hadn't focused my mind on it.
This is a very important topic.
Yeah, the TTIP. So if you hear those initials, you'll know that refers to the Transatlantic
And
Trade
by the way,
and Investment Partnership.
as Bill Clinton would say, this is not a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
No, this is not a good thing.
And he also said it's all about the economy.
And it's all about the economy, stupid. And that's what we should be focusing on. We've got to change. And I'm going to bring this out. Now, you were talking about socialism earlier, right, Dennis?
Right.
Well, if you talked about socialism, we have to come to a social agreement that all humanity must have their basic needs met within the economic system for a minimum of 1 hour of labor a day. That will change our entire economic system. And the way we get there, what people could do about that is to use the internet to try to get this concept or the measurement out that all humanity, no matter where you are in the world, has to have their basic needs met for 1 hour a day. And we're going to call that the HREM measurement. We're hoping to get some mathematicians on that to put an axiom or some kind of measure to prove that all humanity has to have a certain amount of energy units for their education, food, and shelter, no matter what. And what we need to have people talk about this measurement. Then that'll change the economic system so no company can sue a country or a state because they're losing money. This is ridiculous.
And this is in real time now, Dennis. I think one of the Skype addresses would suggest that at least one of your friends you were going to interview is in Berlin or goes there frequently. There were some 5,000 people protesting in Berlin 21 hours ago against the transatlantic trade and investment partnership.
And this is the first time I'm hearing of this.
And that's what the author of the article I read said. It's been conducted in secrecy for the most part. And there's also a huge European, they're starting to stop the TTIP going forward. Amazing.
Now, by the way,
people are protesting throughout Europe.
We just got an email that will probably do the show that was planned on doing today, next Wednesday, rather than next Sunday, rather than Wednesday.
Okay, that's fine.
So we're going to be
between times we'll practice making contact with them.
Right, and then we're going to practice a way of getting you on Skype, or they can probably call us and you. They know probably how to do it better than I do, and we can get everybody onto the Skype thing, which would be good.
That would be really great if they could make the contact with you, Dennis.
Yeah.
Do you have a Skype address?
Do you have a? Well, I know you have a Skype address, but would you make sure that's set up so they can call you on Skype?
And then they'll call us, and then we'll have three.
We'll have 3 people on Skype and put you on here.
That would be great.
That would be good. Okay, but so that's what the plan of attack. But this is the first time I am hearing of this international thing that is really going to damage the
Transatlantic trade and investment partnership.
Bad idea.
And of course, Wikipedia will try to put a good spin on it here because they're essentially a United States-based functionary, and you can read their summary. That's very easy to find. And they call it a free trade area. Free trade is an
acronym for
let the corporations do whatever they want
and
to
kill
make profit.
The people and kill the environment. That's
free trade.
That's the word of free trade. That is not really free trade. It's putting most people in poverty, and most people are too stupid to understand that when you say free trade, you as an individual person are going to be really screwed over with the corporations, and they'll tell you you're going to have to work too many hours or so many hours a day to survive. So we need to get the measurement in place, and that to me is
Well,
a very
to protect people, protect our species,
Right.
essentially.
So anyway, that's the story.
I mean,
what did you think about that article,
The only
Dennis?
way that we're going to survive into the future as a species is with diversity. And if you just have a few people who know how to run corporations, and that's all that's left, you're not going to have sufficient diversity within our species for survival into the future.
Now let's get to the second part of this.
You are
problem.
asking Dennis.
Dennis, what do you think of this article now?
See, that's interesting because if you go online and you Google TTIP and you get 1 million hits, I mean, it's interesting. It's possible that what we just read was from the far right.
No, that was definitely,
more likely the far
definitely
left.
was the far left, Dennis, not the far right.
Do you have a sense that your friends are
Conservatives?
conservative about this, or do they not want it? Do they want it to happen?
Well, that's a good question for next Sunday.
Right, you don't know
today.
then. Okay.
Right. But I'm just saying, though, let's just say that they are in favor of it. I cannot answer that, but if they are in favor of this, it would be good to hear the other side. When I mention the far right, I'm half joking. If you're flying a plane in Europe from the North Pole, Great Britain is to the far right, but you might find a country like
I see what you're trying to
Germany
say.
to the far left.
But nobody would have picked that up, Dennis.
No, unless you
explained it,
Yeah, if
as
you
you
didn't-
just did.
Yeah, if you didn't explain that, we'd know what you're talking about.
Anyway, but actually, this individual who was writing the article, this is a person who lives in England, so he's being directly affected by the possible agreement, this transatlantic trade and investment partnership.
Are you being?
So he's really concerned about how it's going to impact his country. He's part of the
in this country,
European Union.
Well, it's going to affect the world, and that's the problem. We're killing people now. This is going to do even more damage. We have to stop this insanity by trying to keep on making profit. Why we need to be in cooperation. That's what renewable energy does. It takes the money from the very wealthy, it gives back the time to the individual. That's what energy does. It gives the individual more free time. But if the big guys keep taking our time away, no matter how much free time we have, they're going to keep making us work more for what they want to do rather than what the larger portion of the population would prefer to do. And this is not the way you have individual rights. This is the way to take away individual rights.
This is amazing, because looking at this article that I just read from the point of view of being a citizen here in the United States, I didn't immediately know what the initials NHS stood for because I'm not a European and I've never benefited from national health services. So it's so amazing. And so I read this, I said, what the heck are they referring to?
National
but of course,
health services.
in England and in Europe, they know what they are because they've been benefiting from national health services, from birth.
Forever.
And of course, even in Canada, of course. But here in the United States, like a blackout, I'm like, what the heck does that stand for? Well, because I'm totally, out of the loop as far as
most of us are. And then most Americans
services.
who would benefit by this don't want this because, wow, you don't want the government involved.
Oh, socialism.
Oh
communism,
my God! And they break it. Oh, so you want to work your asses off for the very wealthy who are controlling your government. This is pretty scary, people.
Right. The only option is you're either working your ass off for people who are lazy bastards, or continue working your ass off for people who are hoarding all of the extra profit from your work and the technology that is being developed.
And Apple's a good example of it too.
Oh yeah, right.
I'm just pointing at the Apple right now.
Oh yeah, excuse me, I got
But the thing is, the
I don't want
technology.
to advertise them.
What's
No,
bad is not the
they're
technology.
very
What's
expensive
bad is the
technology.
way we are controlling the technology to not benefit all of humanity. No human being with the technology available today should have to work more than 1 hour a day for their basic needs met, not their wants. So renew the earth. It talks about renewable energy. Human renewable energy measure, the HERM, the HERM, the HREM.org is something you should be looking up. And definitely try to join us on Bridges Programming, or do your own program on Bridges Programming, which would help us a lot, and get more people to talk about the HREM.org. It's a very, very important thing. You don't have to join anything, you don't have to send any money. Just understand that we need to help humanity around the world. We got to stop killing one another. It's so simple that it repulses the mind. Most of my intelligent friends are intellectually paralyzed with this concept. We need to get this so you understand it. You can work as hard as you want. Let capitalism thrive, but don't let capitalism thrive at the expense and death of other human beings around the world. It's so simple. Does that make sense to you, Dennis?
Oh, yes, I see it happening all the time over in the Middle East where they have oil under the ground.
Well, how about Africa? How about Africa? How about Syria? How about Indonesia? How about the United States? How about the United Kingdom? How about all these other places that's happening that you don't mention?
Well, I have a question. There's a state in the United States. It's called Alaska, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just like Hawaii. Okay, all right. But between Alaska and 48 states is another country. Susan, you mentioned Canada, right?
Yes.
So could we? Yes. I mean, would we be able to have a trade and investment partnership instead of just 50 states? Could Canada be number 51, and maybe even in the future go over the Atlantic? You could call it the Transatlantic.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Dennis.
Right.
Why do we have separate countries and separate states?
That's a good question. At first, we only had 13. 13 counties.
Well, do we actually, let me ask you another question. Did we actually make more countries and we made more states? Did we actually physically make more countries and states?
Well, in the sense of going over, like where California
No, did we
is.
actually, I'm asking you a physical question. Did we actually make more countries and more states? Did we?
Well, no. I mean, Hawaii was always there in the ocean. We did not make
Right.
one.
So all we're doing is renaming them, and they're there and they're real, and you can't change the fact that they're real. So they're part of our planet, are they not?
Right.
So if I poison with deadly gas or nuclear waste over let's say Alaska, isn't that going to affect Canada and the rest of the world?
Yes.
So it's really not a separate state. It's part of all of us, isn't it?
Right.
So that's my point. We have to stop dividing and thinking that the hurricane or the tornado is only going to stay in your location. It has physical no boundaries. If you get a disease formed in one part of the world, there's no boundaries on that disease. You can put, border patrols up to try to stop it, but reality is that you can't stop the disease from spreading. So there's really no boundaries other than man-made boundaries. So we have to face the reality of this. And that's where the human renewable energy measurement comes in. There's a physical measurement that all humanity must have their basic needs met. And we know that we're human, so we're all a little different because of our wants, not our needs. Our wants make us different than animals, but our needs are all the same. No matter where we live in the world, our needs are always the same. This is Sunday on the Front Stoop. This is Bridges Programming. sponsored by the HREM, Human Renewable Energy Measure. And we're actually imploring you to please look this up and get this message out to other people, the hrem.org. You also have a nonprofit if you wanted to support that. And you don't have to because it's supported by other people as well, but we can always use more support, called Renew the Earth. And please look that up. There's all kinds of fun stuff for that, and also good information on Renew the Earth. It talks about all renewable energies, wind, sun, and biomass fuels. We are in the process of building a bird watching boat to show people about all the different renewable energies that runs on solar power.
Not plugging it in, it's just the sun.
Just the sun runs you all day long on solar, quietly, without pollution. Now, of course, there's always going to be some kind of pollution building these things. But once you get them built, that's good. This boat now is 20 years old, and we're reestablishing it. So it's a lot easier to reestablish it than rebuild new ones, but we're going to try to build an energy-efficient way of doing electric boats so people can enjoy their life. Most people can't even think of that because they're working 60 hours, 70 hours a week to live. And that's entirely wrong. And then when we get to a certain age, we get too old to use our mind the way we used to and use our body the way we used to. But the young people are working too damn hard. And we have to make sure that they stop working this hard for their basic needs met. However, if they choose to work hard, they have the opportunity as an individual rights. So that's my whole point. Now, Dennis, what do you think about what you think that we covered some of the stuff on we talked about that without the German friends of ours here? Did we cover a lot of this or what?
I think it's a very good start, and then we can ask our friends questions next week. For example, do they agree with the article that Susan read from from England?
Yeah, I'd be very curious to know now what their reactions are.
I bet you I'm willing to guess that they were probably at that that rally, and they want to get the message out. And by the way, I did not hear about this rally until Susan read that article. And I didn't even hear about this problem until you were going to put these people on the program. So that to me is a very interesting enlightenment, understand something new we learned about. So that's great. Yeah. I mean, you did a great job picking that out, Dennis.
Well, thank you, and my friends did a great job. I never even heard of anything called TTIP.
Neither did I.
And even though Wikipedia confirms that the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership is a proposed, quote, free trade agreement being secretly negotiated between the European Union and the United States. It argues that TTIP will cost over 1 million jobs, leads to the irreversible privatization of public services, a race to the bottom in food, environment, and labor standards.
That's Wikipedia.
And allows U.S. companies, no, this is quoting from the attitude of this particular
writer.
Yeah, they're commenting on, now that's not the Wikipedia actual, page about the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, but it does say that it is a secretly negotiated agreement being worked on right now between the European Union and United States. Oh, wow.
I have a question. Isn't it possible if you Google TTIP and like 1 million hits come up, and at the very top, one of the first ones you see might be something that could be brainwashing us? That, in other words, only like 1% could agree with that one at the top, and 99% of us could, disagree with what you just read. So isn't it possible that we could be getting brainwashed by what was at the top of that list?
Anything is possible, Dennis. Anything is possible. The question is it probable? And the answer to that, I would say, is yes.
Okay, here's what they say on Wikipedia. Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership is a proposed free trade agreement between the European Union and the United States with the aim of promoting multilateral economic growth. The American government considers the TTIP a companion agreement to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP. After a proposed draft was leaked in March 2014, the European Commission launched a public consultation on a limited set of clauses in January 15, published parts of an interview. If an agreement is to be made, it is not expected to be finalized before 2016. European Citizens Initiative Against TTIP and CETA, named Stop TTIP, has been established, acquiring over 3.2 million signatures within 1 year. Economic barriers between the EU and the United States are relatively low, not only due to longstanding membership in the World Trade Organization, WTO, but also recent agreements such as EU-US Open Skies Agreement and work by the Transatlantic Economic Council.
All these are negative things, in my opinion, that's happening to benefit the economic system, not benefiting humanity. Now, when I say the economic system, maybe it's just 1.1%, but I'm saying to you, we have to start benefiting humanity rather than the big corporations. Now, I don't know what the percentage is, but I do know that humanity is getting screwed to the wall.
Some form of transatlantic free trade area had been proposed in the 1990s and later in 2006 by German Chancellor Angela Merkel in reaction to the collapse of the Doha World Trade talks. However, protectionism on both sides may be a barrier to any future agreement.
People are worried about losing money.
And jobs.
They're not worried about
and
it.
jobs,
Right, well, that's
and
money,
government.
right? So we need to make sure. And by the way, you don't need to have people working these many jobs. It's good to have people not work, but it's good to have people get their basic needs met, and they have all the time, the free time for using their mind and body to do the things they want to do, and that's going to benefit humanity. So don't worry about losing jobs. Make sure you have your basic needs met no matter what happens anywhere in the world, and you've changed the economic system. I don't know how much simpler I could say that. Dennis, does that make sense to you? You don't work now, but you have free time, and isn't that a good thing?
Yes, I think there were countries who were trying to do exactly that.
But they
not
did.
Just before World War II, even before World War I.
But they didn't have the measurement, Dennis. They didn't have the measure. Without the measure, you can't get there from here. That's the problem. Go ahead.
Here's a few numbers in this same Wikipedia coverage. I mean, as usual with Wikipedia, it's like listening to an NPR broadcast. They just put information out there. There's no opinion. But here we go. You've got to figure this out yourself. Quote, the United States and European Union together represent 60% of global GDP, 33% of world trade in goods, and 42% of world trade in services. There are a number of trade conflicts between the two powers, but both depend on the other's economic market, and disputes only affect 2% of total trade. A free trade area between the two would represent potentially the largest regional free trade agreement in history, covering 46% of all world GDP. I don't even know why they're bothering, really, unless the U.S. wants to somehow reduce restrictions so that there's even more
suddenly the price of oil goes up. Neighbors out of work because they closed the factory. You try to stretch your paycheck, but it's never quite enough. Oh, energy.
Tune in again next Sunday. Next Wednesday,
the money's
this is a very important topic. Thank you very much for listening. Please look up the hrm.org and look up the
Fossil fuel affects our lives like ripples on a lake.
Cars and farms and factories and
Dennis Carius, which
Supplies
we're
go down,
very happy you
so
could
our
come. Thank you,
futures are at
Dennis.
stake. And when it's gone, it won't come back, and we'll be out of luck. Oh, energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy. We can get our energy from corn and grass and trees. Even trash converts to biofuels. Break loose from the stranglehold of oil companies. Renewables can fuel the world. We're here to spread the news of energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy.